Hello and welcome to Hiroshima University. I am Dr. Maria Grajdian. I am an associate professor affiliated with the Department of Integrated Global Studies at Hiroshima University. Today, it is my privilege and pleasure to guide you on a journey of exploration through the fundamentals of my research and teaching activities. The particular focus lies on the stress ratio between traditional academics and progressive lifestyles. In my classes, as well as in my research activities, I quest for a dynamic harmonization of pedagogical principles and real-life experiences, which then leads to a gradual discovery of our individual selves. This happens in 3 steps. Firstly, the past structures, paradigms, systems, doctrines, flows are observed and analyzed, both located within the global community and on a historical background of specific configurations. Take as an example the slogan Wakon yosai, which translates as Japanese spirit or roots and Western technology or knowledge. It was coined by Yoshikawa Tadayasu in Questions and Themes on Progress from 1867. On the one hand, Wakon yosai reflects the Japanese intellectuals' balancing acts between Son no Joi and Bunmei Kaika by mid-19th century, when the second wave of rewriting the past history and laying the foundation of New Japan based on Western, namely mainly European, paradigms occurred. Son no Joi, usually translated as Revere the Emperor, expel the Western barbarians, and Bunmei Kaika, usually translated as Western civilization and enlightenment, were 2 concurrent ideological movements in Japan during the 1850s and 1860s. The so-called Bakumatsu, which translates as the end of the shogunate and literally means the end of the curtain, which is remembered in chronicles as a period of confusion and turmoil. During those times, some groups were pleading and fighting for the restoration of the emperor and thus ending the shogunate system, while still keeping the country in its self-imposed segregation policy known as sakoku, which had lasted since 1603. These were the representatives of the Son no Joi movement. Some other groups were pushing for the opening of the country to ideas and technological scientific developments and products coming from the West, while acknowledging the necessity to adopt Western policies, particularly European policies, and proposing methods to adapt Japan to them. They were the representatives of the Bunmei Kaika movement. These 2 movements will eventually, in early 1863, subside into a reactualization of the pre-modern slogan Wakon Kansai, known as Wakon yosai, namely Japanese spirit or roots and Western technology or knowledge. Wakon Kansai is translated as Japanese spirit or roots and Chinese technology or knowledge, and refer to the long centuries in which China had served for Japan as the main source of information and instruction on all levels, with its climax during Tokugawa period, which lasted from 1603 until 1868. Particularly during its early decades in the 1600s, Neo-Confucianist ideas were implemented in the newly closed country on all levels, political, economic, social and cultural, with the goal of preserving its autonomy and self-sufficiency in the face of advancing Western imperialism in the Asian geographical space. During Meiji period, which lasted from 1868 until 1912, with essentially Japanese modernity, reconfiguring the Wakon Kansai principle into Wakon yosai principle, there was a swift paradigm shift from Chinese to Western, particularly European, models. Technically speaking, Wakon yosai contained 2 parameters. Firstly, Fukoku Kyohei, which translates as rich state, strong military, and which had its origins in the Warring States period in ancient China between 5th and 2nd century BC. This idea of a rich state, strong military had been inaugurated and subsequently implemented during the so-called Iwakura mission to Europe from 1871 until 1873. From present-day perspective, Fukoku Kyohei is seen as the root of nationalism in Japan and was based on the advice of the German Chancellor Otto von Bismarck, who had been sought out by Meiji leaders such as Okubo Toshimichi and Ito Hirobumi. It emphasized the necessity for a militarily and economically strong Japan, with nationalism fundamental for the preservation of independence, which revealed simultaneously the cynical awareness of the predatory nature of international politics at the time. Secondly, Shokusan Kogyo, which means promotion of production and industrialization, and which was a policy designed to achieve national wealth and power, based on the promotion of local production and industrialization, but aimed, in fact, at the nurturance and protection of domestic industry. In the words of Richard Samuels, the goal of the Meiji government was to form a unified country by negotiating with the old ruling class and to achieve economic autonomy in the face of hostile foreign powers. The reform of the mode of production into capitalism and the launching of arms production that were to be realized in the name of Fukoku Kyohei, that is, rich state, strong military, and Banpo Taiji, that is, standing against all countries, were implemented by the Shokusan Kogyo policy, that is, the policy of promotion of production and industrialization. However, like Wakon Kansai, Wakon Yosai refers to an officially established model of importing external inputs and turning them into Japanese national assets through a meticulously crafted process of Japanization, so that they could later on be transformed into economic and political power. The results of the Wakon Yosai strategy can be observed everywhere throughout Japanese modernity since 1868 and naturally predominant in present-day Japan, from education to technology, culture and society, economics and politics. Since late 2000s, though, the mid-19th century slogan Wakon Yosai has been slowly, steadily, gradually developing into Wakon Wasai, which translates as Japanese spirit or roots and Japanese technology or knowledge. This is a tendency clearly visible in present-day Japan. It outlines the crucial transition from a worldview based on imported artifacts, which metamorphose into Japanese artifacts after undergoing the process of Japanization, towards an existential paradigm in which national identity serves as a cultural construction of the national self, also known as nation branding, promoted, propagated, and implemented on an international level by means of soft power exports. Wakon Wasai could be keenly observed in the past 10 to 15 years, and particularly during the previous administration of then Prime Minister Abe Shinzo from 2012 until 2020. While Cool Japan might be regarded as the Japanese version of cultural imperialism and possibly the only one able to oppose the all-encompassing American cultural imperialism in the triad of hard power, soft power, smart power, it simultaneously represents the ideological climax of a long history of importing and Japanizing external inputs into national assets to be transferred subsequently into economic supremacy and political hegemony. Secondly, the theoretical explanations are observed and analyzed in products and phenomena of present-day popular culture and mass media, in the aesthetics and ideologies of Studio Ghibli, Takarazuka Review, Murakami Haruki, or more recently, Shinkai Makoto and Visual Kei. Thirdly, students are invited to explore the potentialities of the future, based on the principles of historical development and their reflection in present-day phenomena of cultural consumption. In this academic endeavor, we look at the future as a conglomerate of our decisions and choices, as well as their subsequent consequences, so that we metamorphose ourselves from victims of history to which life happens into co-creators of the future, who make things happen and build up the history yet to come. The goals of such a procedure are twofold. Firstly, students are invited to discover their own individuality and potential, so that they can later on fulfill that potential and exponentially expand it. This is crucial for lifespans of 100 plus years in average. Moreover, we move from a static paradigm of identity as crystallized in the idea of know thyself towards a dynamic paradigm of identity, discover thyself. Secondly, we look together at the avenues for attaining individual excellence by means of individual journeys of exploration and experimentation. In turn, individual excellence allows for personal development and suitable integration within society, then leads to collective excellence. It is in this collective excellence, emerging from individual excellence, that each of us, as individuals and as a group, can become co-creators of the future. A future of love, peace, compassion, cooperation, and mutual respect. I am a pragmatic idealist. I agree with Voltaire's critique of Leibnizian optimism in his short novel Candide from 1759, that not all is for the best in the best of all possible worlds, and with his deeply practical precept of we must cultivate our own garden. At the same time, though, I know that the present and the world we see around us are the results of decisions and choices made by previous generations, because this present was at some point in the past the future. Therefore, if we want a better future for as many of us as possible, we must start now to take different decisions than our predecessors. In doing so, mankind will become sooner rather than later a multiplanetary species, as Elon Musk has repeatedly outlined in recent years. Becoming a multiplanetary species is a survival condition for mankind, not the luxurious dream of bored, jaded billionaires. Elon Musk believes in this. I believe in this. I invite you to join us in our exploration and co-creation of the future. A future of love, peace, compassion, cooperation, and mutual respect. Forward is outward and upward. Thank you for joining me today. I am looking forward to welcoming you very soon at Hiroshima University. Love and peace to you all.